It's time for WrestleShoot. The beast comes out in the dead of night. WrestleShoot eats a Tuesday night. Rob and Chris don't pull the punches, bitch. WrestleShoot. Breaking it down, WrestleShoot. Telling the facts, WrestleShoot. Stories on the road, WrestleShoot. That's our fire's thumbtacks. No Carney ever escapes their sight. Coming at you live every Tuesday night. Hey, WrestleShoot. Anti-social network, WrestleShoot. Sticky and hot, WrestleShoot. Sometimes act like jerks, WrestleShoot. Always bringing all the guts.
God damn right, baby. The greatest entrance song in the history of professional wrestling podcasts. Welcome to WrestleShoot right here on the Anti-Social Network. I'm Rob Wilds, joined, of course, as always, by almost always. You weren't with us last week, you bastard, so you're not going to get such a great build-up this time.
What?
Because you left me and Max Payne to go off the rails with this show all by ourselves. Unless you're here to steer the ship, it goes stupid.
Oh, shit. Damn. Yeah. That was my bad.
That was your bad. Anyway, I'm joined, as always, by the lovely and talented. Look at that smile. Look at those cheeks you just want to pinch. My co-host, my tag team partner, my hetero life mate, the great and powerful Chris.
Wow.
What's up, bud?
I thought that was a great entrance, man. I thought you were going to kind of downgrade a little bit, but that was...
No,
awesome.
I had a change of heart like I always do with you.
Ah, damn it. Always ad-libbing shit. Changing shit up in the middle.
I know, just me and you this week, man. We don't got no Max with us. But what we do have with us, Chris, who we do have this week, and it's unfortunate that Max isn't with us to bring him on. He's one of my buddies from online. He's been in the professional wrestling business every bit as long as Mr. Payne. Chris, you're going to remember this guy, Dusty effing Wolf. Brother man. Welcome to the...
I don't know if I live up to that introduction, so how's everybody doing?
Good. We're just missing our brother. He's not here today.
Yeah.
Wait, so where is he, by the way?
Where's Max? Oh, you haven't heard?
No.
Oh, Christ. Well, let me clue you
He's
in.
not here. I was surprised.
I guess you must have missed Ghosted last night. I kind of spilled the beans there about what happened to Max. So here's what happened, Chris. So Max, Mr. Payne was doing, you know what Max Payne does on occasion. He was taking up a 007 style mission for his government. And when it was completed, he was on a government plane and he was flying on back home. And they were over Mount Everest, actually, when Max's worker sense started tingling. And he figured out that pilot was getting ready to swerve the finish on him. So he went up to that cockpit and he killed that pilot. And being Max Guyver, like we all know he is, he rigged up that plane to explode. He didn't even grab a parachute, that crazy motherfucker. He just did a moonsault right out the emergency hatch on the plane.
Wow.
Right over Vegas, no parachute, no nothing. He watched the plane explode. Then he opened up his trench coat and he caught the air like Batman. And he started flying down into Everest really, really fast. And I actually have a satellite image of what Max looked like right before his descent. This is Mr. Payne just a few days ago, hanging over Everest. There's that plane.
Oh, wow.
Bada bing, bada boom. So then Max went ahead and went Batman style. He opened up his cape and he started charging down towards Everest because we know Max would make a nice soft landing and be okay. But with that eagle eye vision he's got, down on Everest, he saw Mick Foley standing there. And he went, oh, that son of a bitch. And he came down at Mick Foley at full speed. He came down with an elbow drop on Foley's head and drove Mick 1,600 feet right into the very soil of Mount Everest. But when he landed, he twisted his ankle, so he's taking today off.
Oh, okay. Very interesting story. I guess it could be
Very
believable.
believable, right?
Yeah. Why not? Not sure Miss Wolf thinks about that, but it could be believable.
You ruined my next excuse for telling my wife why I'm late, but other than
shit.
that, that's pretty good.
Well, you should tell her, it was old Max Guyver. He broke a pilot's
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say he took the plane and drove into parts unknown, but
Yeah, that's what's
Well,
great.
no, because see, it was kind of Warrior-esque what he did, but he didn't take the plane. He got the hell out of it after he killed the
okay.
fucking Warrior. That guy was really something. Did you have much experience with Warrior there, Dust?
I worked with him quite a bit. I knew him in Dallas when he was starting.
Yeah.
I was in the world class the same time he started. I knew for some loss a bit, but he was actually getting to work more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks before he started. I knew him there, and I worked with him quite a bit. And I was up and down the road with him quite a bit.
Was he as brutal as we hear to work with?
He was with me.
Yeah.
I haven't heard too many people say much different. I'm sure when it was one of the money makers, he was a little bit different with them than he was guys like me. But even those guys, a lot of them fussed about him too. So,
gosh,
he was just one of those that, strength-wise, he didn't understand his strength, and he didn't care. I can think. I mean, because I worked with a lot of guys.
I think he just didn't care.
I do too. I mean, because like you were mentioning Rude before we went on there. Rude was another one of those didn't know how strong he was, but he didn't abuse it. Warrior just, like I said, I just don't think he cared. It was whatever he did, and he didn't care. And he was protected. He wasn't going anywhere. So.
And he also didn't really care about the wrestling business.
I don't begrudge him that one. He was given an opportunity to make as much money as he could, make it as quickly as you can, and get out, because your body is not going to last forever.
And if it didn't work for him, he just started adjusting backs again.
Yeah, but
gosh,
the whole thing about him not, the whole thing, people get mad about him. Like, he didn't love the business, he didn't respect this, he didn't respect that. He saw the business for what it was, the opportunity to make some healthy money quickly, and then he invested it. He was smart. I think he bought about half of Phoenix at one time, right before the market went really hot in Phoenix. He bought a ton of real estate in Phoenix where he never needed the business again. So I don't know how you would knock that or criticize that. It was difficult to work with in the process. And that doesn't change.
He was in it for himself. It sounds like he made a business decision.
Every last one of us are too, whether the guys admit it or not. It's just whether we can put that to the side to realize that we're in a compact. We got a contract with each other. You don't hurt me, I don't hurt you, because we got to work tomorrow.
Yep.
Thing
about Warriors, I'm not begrudging him either, but he didn't like the business, as I'm understanding. And that's where the problem comes into play, when you don't like the business and you're angry at the business in general.
Yeah, he wasn't alone, though. He wasn't alone, though. I mean, he was not the only one that was like that.
He probably just made it more known.
Yeah, he didn't care if you knew.
Yeah.
There's no truth. There's no two ways about that. That's true. He didn't care if you knew. He'd tell you straight up, it was just business to him. Literally just business. It was all a transaction to him.
I think that's how Sting was in the beginning too, but he ended up growing a love for it.
Well, yeah, Luger. That's another one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a couple of those off the top of my head, but those three are three prime examples of it was just a business transaction for them.
I just personally don't like Lex as a guy, so you're never going to hear me say nothing positive about the worst horseman there ever was.
I haven't seen him since before his spine ruptured, but when we were still around each other, in both Atlanta and New York, there wasn't anything there for me to like either. He He was arrogant. He was cliquish. There's no other way to put it. It was just what he was. It was like, and he'd been handed everything. He didn't. I'm not gonna say he didn't earn it because he kept his place for how many years? 10 years? 12 years?
Yeah.
So, but he was handed everything. Literally handed everything. And
Well, that's why he didn't earn
no,
it.
he
It
didn't
just
earn
kept
it.
being given to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck Max.
He's humbled up though now, though. I mean, I know he's been on some podcasts, and he's like, this whole spinal thing and this transformation.
I've heard he
a lot
has.
more humble.
And, I don't want to talk bad about anybody at that level, but I think it's easy to get humble when you all of a sudden you aren't what you once were. Especially like when not gradual like all of us as we age and this pops up and then that pops up and this doesn't work. No, he was literally on a flight, and when he got on the flight, he was Lex Luger, and when they medevaced him off the flight, he was no longer Lex Luger. He literally was in just a moment because his spine literally ruptured. I was traveling with Rick Steiner like the week after it happened, and he told me everything that happened. He said Luger got on the plane, everything was good. He looked at Steiner and said, "Something's wrong with me," and that was when his spine ruptured.
Wow.
So I got a feeling that would.
Could you imagine how bad that would hurt?
Oh, I don't. I have no idea. I can't even. I mean, I go through back pain every day, and I couldn't imagine what that would be like. And I could see how that would humble anybody. If it didn't, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I mean, Ric Flair survived a plane crash. Didn't do much to humble him up.
He also didn't have his spine literally just rupture and cripple him either. That's exactly what it was like an aneurysm in his spine, so to speak, and it just completely exploded.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I don't want to imagine what that feels like.
Oh no.
Especially we all three know our share of back pain from too much bumping, and that's just back pain from bumping. That's not from anything rupturing.
I've got an electronic device in my back in order to keep moving. It's one of those little TENS units, and they actually implanted it in my back. I operated by remote control. It was either that or a fusion surgery, and God knows how many pills. I wasn't doing neither one. So,
Yikes.
When was your last match?
February 2011.
2011. That recently. All right.
Yeah. It's been 15 years.
Did you just wrap it up on an indie show?
Yeah, that's where I was at for the last 9-10 years of my career. It was.
But what I mean was your last match. Was it like a thing, or was it just a show?
Yeah, they gave me a little send off. It was a nice little send off. It was a little town. And then I worked with Honky Tonk, and they gave me a little send off there. And I mean, it may have been more than I deserved, but it was a thought, and it was thoughtful. And they did give me a little because I let everybody know I'm leaving, and when I'm gone, I'm gone. I'm not going to do the thing where I come back in 6 months or a year, and I didn't. I have not set foot in the ring since.
Wow.
I helped a couple of people when they asked for help in the back type thing for a little bit, and then I haven't done that in 10 years.
Wow.
It's like us. We threw the towel in for our retirement a few times. We just kept ending up back in the ring, man.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I realized if I did the thing where I tried to keep my finger in the pie, so to speak, or keep my toe in the water, whatever bad analogy you want to, just try to stay around a little bit. I knew that I would never commit to whatever the next steps were, and so I just walked.
Yeah.
It was time. It was past time, actually.
Walk, they're done.
Yeah, it was past time. I mean, I was already physically spent, and the money wasn't right, and I was finishing college, and my wife and I had just started seeing each other. My mom was sick, and there's just a whole confluence of everything came together and said, go fishing, go home.
Yeah.
So do you get to a point where? Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, it was a sign. Like everything. There's so many things going on.
Somehow or another, and I'm not a religious person, never will be. But it was some kind of way that the signs were so obvious. Yeah. That if I kept ignoring them, I was even dumber than people claim I am. So, yeah.
Did you get to the point where you said to yourself, self, what the hell else can I really accomplish? I've done it.
Oh yeah, years before I
I've done
left.
New York. I've done Japan. I've been everywhere.
Yeah, years before I left. Part of the reason I didn't leave sooner is I didn't know what I was going to do.
Okay.
I really didn't. I was that guy that got in when he was a young kid, and I bridged from the time that there were still territories and worked the territories into the big offices. I outlived my usefulness in the big offices to where I was on the independent scene. The independent scene was turned into shit in those days. I mean, I had done everything, and you hang around thinking the phone's going to ring and you go get that one last run or that one last really good tour or whatever. But there was a good 3-4 years there that I should have gone sooner, but didn't. And there were more than one day I would wake up and like, why am I still doing this? What's there left to do?
Yeah. And you were on for a while. Like, when did your career start?
I started in 1982.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked for 29 years.
That's a hell of a career there.
Yeah, and I wasn't one of those guys that had one match a month for 29 years either. I'm somewhere around. I have to be somewhere around 4,500 matches.
Yeah,
because it was my job for all but like the first year and then about the last 8 months. So there was like a 27, 28 year period that it was my job.
Wow.
Yeah,
you ever have any matches with Max by chance?
No, I don't think I've even ever met Max. If I did, it was just in passing once or twice going through Atlanta when he was still in WCW, and I made somebody would pick up the phone and ask me if I wanted to come in and make a show or two before they actually would work a little bit. I may have crossed paths with him then, but otherwise, he's getting his little bit of a push there in Atlanta, and I'm either in New York or on the independent scene. And then when he's in New York, I'm on the independent scene and going overseas. So I don't remember crossing paths with him.
All right.
So I asked him, hey, do you know Dusty Wolf? He's like, Jesus, I feel like I've met him, but I'm not sure.
We probably did in Atlanta.
Yeah.
In the 90s when he was in Atlanta. And I guess I would go in and make 1 or 2 shows before they started putting me to work on a fairly regular basis. But by the time they started putting me to work on a regular basis, he was up in New York.
Man Mountain Rock.
Yeah. I have no doubt that we were in the same dressing room a time or two, but I don't remember it. I really don't.
All right, fair enough.
So
he's busy right now nursing his little sprained footy from his 18,000 mic. So I can't ask him yet.
When he recovers from all that, and we'll check. Yeah.
His sprained ankle.
And we'll find out if Mick is still alive, and maybe we can get Mick to come on the show.
I think Mick is like invincible. I think he's here forever.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be
him. They definitely tried to kill him, haven't they?
I think it's gonna be him, Keith Richards,
multiple times.
I really do. The man has broken more bones and destroyed more parts of his body than anybody I know, and he still just keeps on showing up and doing his thing.
What's your biggest career highlight there, buddy?
Well, I don't know. Madison Square Garden to a kid from South Texas. You grew up knowing that Madison Square Garden was the Mecca in those days. Vince Jr. has changed it in the time period in which he promoted Madison Square Garden. But even when I made it in the 80s, it was still like the building. Making the Garden a couple of times.
Yeah, that was the mark right there, right? If you could be.
Yeah, it was at one time. It meant that you were. Maybe not that you had made it, because a lot of guys like me that were never, pushed to the top have been in the Garden, but it meant that you had been accepted.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Dude, if you make it at the Garden, you've made it. If you get to
That's
go
what I'm saying.
work at the Garden,
even if you weren't getting pushed, you've made it. You've shown that you belong in the business. And I was a 24, 25-year-old kid the first time. No family. I mean, I don't even know to this day still exactly how I made it to the business and made it as far as I did.
I know, without having like Bill Watts as your brother or anything like
I had
another
no
20,
family. I had no family. I had none of that. It was just, knocking on doors, picking up phones,
Wow.
refusing to take no for an answer, overstaying my welcome in a couple of places, that sort of thing. That's how I made it.
Well, speaking of Watts, so I want to get your take on this. So Eric Watts, we had a show was it 2 weeks ago, Rob? We were talking about Eric Watts, how he tapped out Rick Rude in the back.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah.
How he tapped out Rick Rude several times.
And yeah, so what are your thoughts on this? Like,
Eric Watts that I know would have never been able to do that to the Rick Rude that I knew.
Okay.
I'm not going to say he didn't. They were horsing around, and Rude said, "Show me something," and Rude had to tap because it was, he actually gave Watts the arm or something like. I'm not going to say nothing like that. It never happened because I wasn't there. But all things being equal, if they went after each other 100 times, Rick Rude's winning 100 times.
The story that Watts gave was supposedly Rude was talking about how he managed to beat Henning. And then this made his ears red. And he started talking shit about Rude and Henning and then beat up Rude. Then he separated Rude's shoulder, right?
Something like that. Yeah, he said something about the comment he made about Henning was, well, I guess Henning's not a good wrestler then. And then supposedly Rude got pissed or something, and then they got this little getting all hands on knees. And then I guess he tapped him out supposedly, but yeah,
there's no way.
No. I mean, if he jumped Rude or somebody else had already knocked Rude down or something, I wasn't there. But like I say, just all things considered, equal, man to man, it's not happening.
Have you worked Rick Rude before?
Yeah, many times. We were in Memphis together, and then we were in New York together. Memphis. I was thinking if he was in Florida at the same time. He came into Florida after I left, but we were in Memphis together. We were in, obviously New York together. I worked with him many times, both places.
Did he take care of you?
He was one of the, when we was in Memphis, he was still a little scary because he was just so ungodly strong. Like I was telling you before we went on there, he had that Danny Hodge, I don't know how strong I am type tendon strength in his hands and everything, and his elbows, and it was a little scary. But by the time he got to New York, he was polished. You knew he was strong just when he grabbed you, but he didn't hurt you. Rude was one of the better heels. Rude was just a little awkward with some of his bumps and stuff, and there were times where you wondered if he didn't hurt himself. But as far as psychology goes and taking care of you in the ring, Rick was as good a heel as anybody.
What about Henning? You get your roll around.
Henning's one of the best. I mean, anybody wants to tell you Henning wasn't one of the best is a liar or a fool, or both. Henning was he was a natural to begin with. Just a natural athlete. He grew up in the business, and it was a night off. Henning really was
nice.
Yeah. Everybody says that about Henning, though. It was always like a night off.
It was.
Brett said that. That's saying something. That Brett's saying something like that, where Brett's always talking bad about people.
You knew you had, even if it was like those little 3-4 minute TV matches sometimes were worse than 20 minutes because you had to do so much so quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
And even then, when you came back after working with Kurt in a little quick match like that, you weren't blowed up at any level. At halftime, you weren't even sweating, but it was that easy. Even though you weren't just standing still, you were still working. I mean, it was just a night off. It was. Simple as that.
It's like that's what I hear about working with Owen too. Is like with Brett. Yeah. Brett's real physical, and Brett lays it in. Owen makes it look as physical as Brett, but he's not laying it in.
Brett was nowhere near as physical as some of the other guys down through the years, but he was snug. But it was still that whole crew when I was there. I'll just put it this way: I never ran across really bad workers until I went on the independent scene.
Right. Well, of course.
I was in the territories, and there were guys in the territories people never heard of today that could outwork anybody around. Vince had one of the best crews around when I was there. when I was in WCW, they had all the talent that Vince had helped create, plus some of the guys they were creating. Uh, I was blessed. I didn't know what bad talent was until I until I started getting out on the independent scene. I didn't.
Then you get to the indies and you get a guy who clotheslines you across the mouth, and you're like, oh, so not everybody knows how to work.
The guys were just. What are you gonna do? I mean, that's one of those things. There's nothing you can do about it. We could fuss about it all day long. It was bad 30 years ago. As far as I can see, it's rough today. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, what is the indies, right? It's the pissing grounds for guys who are going to make it and guys who are going to go away.
When I started on the indie scene in the late 80s, early 90s, because I would make independent dates in and around if I wasn't working full time with anybody, but I was still working.
Were they calling it renegades back then, or were they calling it indies?
We're still outlaws. We still call them outlaws.
All right.
But the majority of them were run by guys that were actual promoters. They weren't guys that, money marks that just decided they wanted to run shows. They were actual promoters. There were plenty of guys that, as you say, they may have been on their way out or on their way down but that wasn't so much because they were over or whatever. The territories were leaving. They were done. They were closing shop. Business was changing. So the independent scene in the very beginning wasn't that bad. Everybody had young guys. But after a few years on the independent scene, it really started getting bad because of two things. Schools, you just keep breaking people in. And two, where do they learn?
Yeah.
Who did they learn from?
Who do they learn from is even more important. I can remember you could literally see the independent scene go from like the plateau of here and then just do this over the period of like 20 years.
Yeah.
I was there for the 20 years. And you could, because I've said it many times. If you've ever watched that movie Multiplicity with Michael Keaton.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You remember when by the time the one Multiplicity, he's running around in the goggles and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And Michael Keaton's explanation is, every time you make a Xerox, if a Xerox you lose or something, that's what wrestling schools were. You had guys who could actually work, training people, but nobody learns how to work in the gyms. They learn how to work when they're in the ring in front of people. And when the independent scene started, you still had guys that were running 3-4 shows a week. And you could keep busy. You could learn because the guys that knew how to work were still in the business. 20 years later, those guys were no longer in the business. You had people that had never really learned how to work doing the training, and then now those guys are spitting out people that are doing the training. And every time you make a copy, you lose something. It was inevitable.
And you're right. Did you ever have any dealings with Paul DeMarco?
With who?
Paul DeMarco,
the old timer?
Yeah.
No, I know the name, but I never met him.
I was just gonna say that. Have you ever worked around with Mike Modest?
Probably up on that East Coast, working for some of the guys I worked for back in the 80s and 90s on the East Coast. Probably.
I only bring that up because Paul DeMarco trained me. Mike Modest trained him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we were forced to really respect the industry before we're even gonna learn to run the ropes,
Yeah.
But these kids coming out nowadays were trained by nobody who ain't never been nobody, who will never be nobody. And most of these dudes who are older, they never went anywhere. It's just a money grab.
There's no place for them to go. Because there's no territories left. There's, nobody's running overseas tours like there's no place to go.
Yeah.
And to their defense, how do they make money off of school if they don't have students?
But when you're turning out garbage because you're already checked out and you weren't really any good in the first place, then
care.
You're just stealing kids' money.
They don't care.
They want to make money quick as possible, and they push those kids out even quicker. I mean, they're like 2-3 months tops, if that.
I can only imagine what it's like now. I know how. I can remember in the very early 90s when everybody started opening up schools. And even then, it was guys that were legit. Chris Adams, guys like that were opening up schools everywhere. I can remember telling people the schools are going to hurt the business worse than anything else. They're going to destroy the ability to make money. And I remember people tell, "Oh, you're just bitter already, and you don't want to be replaced." You're right. I don't want to be replaced. That's what I'm telling. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You keep spitting out people. They're going to take $5 tonight and say thank you, pay me less next time when you're trying to make a living. And I would say that 30 years ago, and people were like, "Oh no," even though it's happening right in front of their eyes.
There was a promoter in California. His gimmick was Doc. Ran real good shows, real big shows. And I'm at one of his shows, and this new kid came in. You know what I'm talking about, Doc.
Yeah.
This new kid came in. He ran out of Los Angeles. And he did his show. It was a second show for Doc. And this particular day, we're in the back, and there's this big ass round table. And a whole bunch of the boys and Doc are just kind of sitting there bullshitting. So the kid comes up. He goes, "How'd I do tonight, boss?" Doc's like, "You actually did pretty good." He goes, "All right, so maybe I can get a payday today?" And he goes, "Well, what did I pay you last time?" He said, "Nothing." He goes, "Nothing? Okay." Pulled a big old wad of cash. Were you there for this story, Chris?
No, you
know
told me the story. I wasn't there for it, but I
Pulls
remember
a
the story.
big fat wad of dough out of his pocket, goes through all of it, pulls out a single dollar bill and goes to hand it to him. And the kid went to grab it and he pulled it back and went, "Now you remember, your first payout came from Doc." And he gave him the dollar, and the kid looked at it and he tried to be cute, lick it, stuck it to his forehead. And I said at the table in front of Doc, "Dude, spit on that dollar, throw it in his face, and go, 'Fuck you, I don't need your change.'" He's like, "No, I'm cool."
You know,
Dollar.
I don't get it because even when we were green and learning and whatever, we were getting paid.
You got gas money.
We were getting paid. We had guarantees. I mean, I've been in the business a year. I've been in the business 6 months, a year and a half, still learning. And whether I was working in San Antonio or I was working in Memphis or Kansas City or wherever, I had guaranteed just like everybody else on the card. I don't understand. I don't understand why you destroy your body for nothing. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, that became kind of the thing in me and Chris's turning out days was go out. Most guys were like, "You got to go out. You got to get booked. You got to get your reps and don't ask for money." Me and Chris had a very different idea about it. We're not going to come get beat up for free. I mean, I get that we're not going to get prime placement, but we're also not free meat.
Yeah.
You don't.
Not worth it.
You can't expect people to pay you after you've done something for free. You can't. All you do is ruin the market for everybody. It's just ridiculous. I know why it happens. I've sat back and watched it for the better part of 30 years. And it's just people living their dream, and that's all they care about. So did I, but I couldn't pay the light bill off of living the dream. You don't do that. You don't do that to yourself. Have more respect for yourself. And I've always had a saying, and I don't have anything to do with business anymore, but I've always had a saying, even then, if you're not worth paying, you're not worth booking.
Well, and Chris kind of had that same attitude when we had our school. We would book shows, and I would highlight a few of our students per show, but I wouldn't pay them for that. They were still in school. Chris used to get fired up. We got to at least give them $20. Like, I'm not giving them anything, man. They're here learning at a real discounted rate. So the least they can do is a 5-minute fucking push around.
I wouldn't work for you. I wouldn't, because my thing is if you're ready to book me, and even if I do still need some, you're still learning, whatever. You've got to be worth something. You have to know your worth. The body doesn't last forever,
and you don't want to devalue yourself.
Exactly. You have to have some value on yourself. All of this that we're talking about, nobody to blame but the talented themselves. That's who is to blame. It's not the ads, it's not the internet, it's not Vince, it's not Bischoff or whoever else people want to try to blame through the years. It's the talent. They take it. I did things that I wouldn't have done today, but to make sure that I was still bringing something in.
I think Chris should have taken Bischoff's job.
Me?
Yeah.
Why?
I think you would have been way better than Eric.
I think most people would.
Eric
And
was
you
a
would
great
have given
TV
me
guy.
a job, right? Maybe.
Let's
Give you
be
a job?
honest. He was.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to pay you.
$20?
Okay.
we gotta give
$50.
Bischoff credit. He was a good TV guy.
Yeah.
He didn't know anything about wrestling. Still doesn't. And whenever I see a clip, I don't pay attention to the podcast, but I'll see a clip here and there, and he still does. But he knew how to create an exciting TV. He knew how to keep. But the thing is, you can't keep giving the people everything on the TV with the same people. You know, eventually you're going to run out of people, or you're going to run out of ideas, and that's what happened to him. That's why he had a good, a year and a half run.
And what I always said about Bischoff is you got to stretch it out, right? You don't go from "Hi, how are you" on a first date right to a blowjob. You got to work up to it. He didn't work up to nothing.
No, that's just it. He didn't understand the wrestling business. It was all about the TV show.
Yeah.
You got anything to bring up, Chris?
I think he had a good run with Bischoff. I mean, I think he did. He was in spot. So however he got there. I mean,
you can't take away the success. You cannot deny the success. I don't. I tell you, he had that good year and a half run, and maybe even a little bit longer when he was still, he may not have been defeating Vince in the ratings, but he was still doing well. I mean, he maybe you'd be 2 or 3 years there, but it had nothing to do with wrestling. This was the transition.
Only reason he beat Vince was because he took Vince's guys.
Well, he also understood something Vince didn't.
Creative.
And he also understood one thing Vince didn't. That by this time, people were no longer worried about who they were watching. They were wanting to see an event. In other words, Vince always wanted to try to make the WWEFG, whatever he calls it, and he did at any point in time. He always wanted to be bigger than his talent.
Yeah.
All the old schoolers use that EFG line. All the old schoolers use that EFG line.
Well, that's so true. We broke in with F, and then became E, and then now it's the WW. And so anyway, it's Vince to me. He always wanted it to be the company first and the talent second. Bischoff showed him how to do it. Bischoff, with the power plant and everything's in-house, and we create the TV to where the TV people are watching WCW. They're not watching Scott Hall, or they're not watching Ric Flair, but they're watching WCW. And they're looking for the NWO, which is WCW. He taught Vince how to actually take what he has always been wanting to do and actually do this.
Yeah.
Made it a whole lot easier for Vince to do that when WCW closes, because now there's no competition and the boys don't have the leverage they had. They always had a little bit of leverage when they had the other office. Once they no longer have that other office, now it's all you're going to do it my way. And the company's going to be bigger than you.
Yeah, I agree.
And Bischoff was brilliant with that. He taught Vince that. I was working for Atlanta when he was doing the whole thing with the power plant. The power plant was important. It was, even if nobody really came out of the power plant, the idea that I've got my talent coming in doing what I want them to do. They haven't been in the independent scene, or they haven't been in the territories for all these years to where they've developed their habits. They're doing what we want.
Right.
That's exactly what Vince wanted. Vince just couldn't figure out how to make it work.
Didn't Vince always have his performance center, though?
Oh,
He was just an advertised power plant, I thought.
Yeah, no, Vince had like Jim Cornette in Ohio, and Steve Kern in Florida, and Lawler in Memphis, and one or two other guys around. And
feeder companies.
Feeder companies, so to speak. Dusty was down in Georgia for a while. And these guys, they're still going to teach. They're all great talents. I'm not saying anything about it, but they're still going to teach some of their ways, not Vince's ways. Then when you leave the feeder territory, Vince is still wanting you to do, work the WWE way. The performance center's been around maybe what 10, 12 years now. Maybe
Yeah.
15. Yeah.
Not that long. I think at least probably the max, maybe 15 years at the
Maybe,
most.
okay, so between 10 and 15. And that's when Vince finally realized that the power plant was the way to go. The power plant idea, that's the way to go. Because you notice he's not bringing them very much independent talent in anymore. It's not even Vince, but it's still his. It's still his fingerprints. He brings in athletes. He brings in fitness models. He brings in people that they're already obviously can be taught.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Jake Pauls and shit.
Yeah. But they can be taught what he wants them to do. And or children, legacies. He brings them in and that sort of thing. And that's the way he's making that's the way the company's making money now. And really, really today it makes perfect sense when you look at it, because I don't know of anybody out there that you could go and learn while you're working somewhere else anyway. I've had a couple of people along the way that they break in, or they want to ask me what should I do, and I say, don't waste your time to find Sean and try to talk to Sean out there in Orlando, or get Norman Smiley and talk to Norman Smiley, and just forget all the other, because all the other's not going to do anything but take your time. You're going to be, all of a sudden you're going to be 30 years old and wondering what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt.
You get to 30 and you start going, well, my window's almost closed.
Yeah, unless you're a specimen, unless you're just like, you're a Batista type specimen that's just, I can't deny you. Yes, exactly. And
the window gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, don't waste your time. Yeah, we've got shelf lives.
Yeah.
We may not accept them, we may not live within them, but we have them. Yeah, there's a point where we're done.
What would be because we're just about out of time here. So what would be your best top piece of advice you would give to a young guy in school?
Yeah.
First of all, I'd tell them don't do it in the first place.
Right?
Don't do it.
There's no place to go. That's just it. Unless, like I just said a minute ago, unless you have an in to Smiley or Sean or somebody of that. I don't know who else is down there. I think Regal's there somewhere at times. So unless you have an in to whoever is Jazz is down there now. Truthfully, I know all the coaches if I was to sit down and think about it. But my point being, if your trainer doesn't know all the coaches, and your trainer can't pick up the phone and give you a push to the coaches, why?
Wow.
You're not, unless you're 6'3", 6'4", or you're some just absolutely tremendous athlete. You're not going to Japan. You're not. There's only so many spots there. People aren't running overseas like they used to, where you could go work for 3-4 weeks and that sort of thing. Puerto Rico doesn't. Yeah, a lot of guys are paying their own way to Japan instead of, you go get your ticket in the mailbox, or you go pick it up at the airport, whatever, like we did. You don't have Puerto Rico running anymore. I mean, when Puerto Rico shuts their offices down and said run once a month, there is no territory.
Yeah.
And you don't learn unless you're in the ring. You don't learn how to work in the gym. I would say unless you're a physical specimen, you have a connection, just don't. Sit at ringside, enjoy yourself. But like the system I came through has been dead for decades. And the system that could bring you through might as well be dead outside for a select few. And people, I would tell them don't again, because I hear every once in a while, I hear what the salary is for somebody at let's say NXT. And I'm like, shit, I made that same kind of money in 1988 and 89 and 90. Hard dollars, not inflation dollars.
Wow.
I look at what we're making, and I say, now, inflation dollars, I was making pretty close, if not the same, creating my own schedule and being home more than probably I should have for the next 10, 15 years.
Wow.
$75,000 today was about $40,000 then, right? When we're talking the early 90s. And I was making that and then some. When I was with Vince, I was making more hard dollars than they are today. Well, Why? You know, like the TNA guys for a while there, where they were working regular jobs, but then they're on worldwide TV.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're making $30, $40 an independent show on the weekends, you know you're not making a living, and then you like Tracy Smothers used to say, you got to have a real job to support your wrestling habit. That's one thing. You know, you're
No doubt.
you're a young kid, you're trying to get started, and I did the same thing my first year. So I can see it if there's some down the road. But I know people that have made it to, SmackDown, Raw, and they're not making six figures a year. They're not. And if you're not making six figures a year in the wrestling business anymore, why?
Yeah, it's not.
Once the taxes take their piece, the road takes its piece, you're down to 70 or 80 grand, maybe even less, depending on your tax situation.
Then you got to pay your health, which is
thank you. That's what I was about to say.
Time.
If you're not making six figures, you're not even really breaking even.
Yeah.
And like I've had since I retired, I was fortunate. I didn't have to do like some of the guys and have surgeries and lay off, whatever, while I was in the business. But since then, I've had my knee replaced, I've had my hip replaced, I've had my neck rebuilt, I've had 4 surgeries on my back, including the basically the TENS unit pacemaker it's in it constantly. I'm going to have the other knee replaced this coming summer. Those surgeries without health insurance would have totaled, the totals they billed with insurance so far have been almost $3 million between the surgeries and then the rehabs and the anesthesiologist and all the way if you've had a surgery, you know exactly, or a hospitalization, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything is billed. And I see all the bills coming in. And the other day, my wife was just like, how much have your whole left side's rebuilt, your neck's rebuilt. How much have you spent? And it was almost $3 million. Almost $3 million. And I know guys that have been in worse shape than I am. I do. Don't, because when you're nearly 50, when you're past 50, you're nearly 60, and you can't take care of yourself because you can't maneuver on a hip that's just been put, you've had your hip replaced and you can't maneuver and you can't take a shower and you can't go to the restroom. You can't do anything for like a 2-week period. None of that, you still have great memories and you still have, but if you don't have anything to show from that time, why? I at least had bought my house.
Why?
Yeah, I bought my house. I paid cash for my house while I was still with Vince. And that house allowed us to move to the house we're in now. So I had something to show for all of it, not as much as I would have liked to have had, because what savings I had during those days got spent because I was like Killer Brooks used to say, I hit the lottery, then I kept wrestling until I was broke again.
Don't piss it away.
Even if I wasn't pissing it away, you just you hit that 3 weeks or whatever in which the bookings are slim, and so you go take a couple hundred out of the account to make sure that the lights stay on, and then all of a sudden that account is just not what it was, and we do it to ourselves. We do, but even doing that, I still had the house. I still had a home, so I did have something to show for it. These guys that are making nothing, they're going to have nothing to show. Nothing.
Yeah.
And they're going to talk about, it was great to be on the road. It was great this and that. And the other, traveling 5 or 10 states can be fun, but you haven't seen anything. You haven't done anything.
So I really hate to stiff the finish here, brother. Okay. We got to go home. Dusty, I want you to come back and hang out with us again when Maxine's footy feels better.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I say, when you said at the beginning, we probably did share a dressing room or 2 together. And now I'm thinking about it because we were in Atlanta, or at least around the Atlanta office at the same time for a short period of time. He was full time. I was just in and out whenever they would give me a phone call. But there was no no conversations. We didn't ride the road together or anything like that. So no, I don't.
Just a quick passing.
Yeah, exactly. And you realize that
cup of coffee, brother.
How many thousands of people I've met down through the years. There are folks that they walk up and I remember this or that. I feel almost like an asshole when I'm like, I have no clue who's saying this to me. And it's not because I'm losing my mind or got mad cow disease or something else. It's just that there were so many people that I met down through the years. And I'm sure he's the same.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. We are over time. This is WrestleShoot right here on the Antisocial Network. I'm Rob Wilds. That guy there is Chris Casanova, joined by our buddy Dusty Wolf. We're going to be coming back to you real soon. Hopefully, old Maximilian's foot feels better and the WrestleShoot family will be strong again. Dusty, I'll be in touch so we can do
All
anything
right.
soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you next week.